Alright, let's dive right into it. I recently wrapped up watching Season 2 of Yellowstone, and I've gotta say, I'm a bit baffled by all the hype surrounding this show. It seems like everyone and their mother is raving about Kevin Costner and the dramatic life of the Dutton family, but honestly, it feels more like a soap opera on horseback than the gritty drama everyone claims it to be. This is just my impression of the show after 2 seasons, which should be enough for any show to prove whether it is good enough to continue watching. So, let's break this down, shall we? The initial premise of Yellowstone may seem promising at first glance, an epic saga of land, family, and power. But it quickly becomes evident that this setup doesn't venture far beyond the surface. Yes, the Duttons are battling to preserve their ranch from outside threats, which includes developers, rival ranchers, and the local indigenous tribes. However, the show often recycles this central conflict, relying on it as a crutch rather than developing richer storylines. The foundation of Yellowstone revolves around the classic trope of a family fighting to keep their land, and while this premise can be engaging, it feels all too familiar. We've seen countless iterations of the land versus development conflict in various forms of media. However, what makes such stories compelling is how they reflect broader societal issues. Yellowstone often misses the chance to explore these dynamics in a nuanced way. For example, the show addresses the clash between ranching and corporate interests, yet it rarely dives deep into the implications of these conflicts. Shows like Deadwood or even Ozark take similar foundational conflicts and layer them with rich themes of morality, survival, and the consequences of choices. They present characters whose actions have far-reaching effects, making viewers contemplate the complexities of right and wrong. In contrast, Yellowstone feels stuck in a loop, often recycling its conflicts without offering substantial growth or resolution. In contrast, shows like The Crown or Succession take familial conflicts and weave them into complex narratives that explore broader themes: power, legacy, and the human condition. They present their characters with moral dilemmas that force them to grow and evolve. In Yellowstone, the stakes seem to reset with each episode, and the Duttons' motivations often feel inconsistent. This lack of narrative progression makes it hard to invest emotionally in their struggles. When it comes to writing, I found that the dialogue in Yellowstone frequently falls flat. Instead of feeling like authentic conversations, many exchanges sound like lines pulled straight from a script designed to tick off boxes for badassery. The writers seem to think that throwing in some tough guy banter or dramatic confrontations will automatically engage viewers. But real tension comes from subtler moments, where the stakes are felt rather than shouted. One glaring example is the constant shouting matches between characters. While conflict is essential for drama, Yellowstone often leans too heavily into this trope. Real-life conflicts rarely resolve themselves through screaming. They're messy, layered, and complex. When characters are perpetually at each other's throats, it becomes exhausting rather than thrilling. The most compelling dramas allow for quieter moments where characters reflect on their decisions or face the consequences of their actions. Mad Men excelled at this, presenting characters with moral quandaries that lingered long after the credits rolled. The show's central characters feel like they're living in a bubble, often repeating the same patterns without real growth. John Dutton is portrayed as a rugged, complex patriarch, but his development stalls out. Rather than being fleshed out with relatable flaws and inner conflicts, he often seems to operate on a single dimension: protect the ranch at all costs. This single-minded focus can be compelling, but it also renders him predictable. In more nuanced series, such as The Handmaid's Tale, characters are put through the ringer, experiencing profound transformation. Offred's journey, for example, is laden with the weight of her choices, and we feel her struggle as she navigates a dystopian world. In Yellowstone, we rarely see such deep emotional grappling. The Duttons don't seem to question their methods, and when they do, it's often brushed aside in favor of action-packed plot twists. Beth Dutton has the potential to be a powerhouse character. Initially, she appears as a strong, independent woman who challenges patriarchal norms. However, her character arc often devolves into a series of exaggerated confrontations. Rather than showing us the nuances of her personality and her motivations, the writers lean into her fierce woman trope, which eventually feels like a disservice to her potential. It would have been fascinating to see her navigate her vulnerabilities while maintaining her toughness, akin to how Killing Eve's Villanelle grapples with her identity and choices. The supporting characters in Yellowstone often lack the depth to make them memorable. Rip Wheeler is a prime example. While he's positioned as a loyal enforcer for the Duttons, his backstory and emotional depth are barely explored. He's painted as the strong, silent type, but when we fail to see what drives him, he becomes just another face in the crowd. In contrast, a show like Better Call Saul delves into its supporting characters with care. Characters like Kim Wexler and Mike Ehrmantraut are given rich backstories that illuminate their motivations and choices. We understand their struggles, fears, and desires, which makes their journeys all the more compelling. In Yellowstone, we're left wondering about the lives of characters like Monica Dutton, who could be an engaging character, yet often serves only as a catalyst for conflict rather than a fully realized person in her own right. One of the major disappointments in Yellowstone is its handling of themes. The series dabbles in heavy topics like land ownership, corporate greed, and indigenous rights, but often glosses over the complexities involved. For a show that aims to portray the harsh realities of ranch life, it misses the mark by not engaging with these themes in a meaningful way. Take, for instance, the ongoing land disputes between the Duttons and the local indigenous tribes. This is a rich area for exploration, yet the show often falls back on cliches and stereotypes instead of diving deep into the history and cultural implications of these conflicts. When compared to shows like Reservation Dogs, which authentically captures the nuances of indigenous life while tackling difficult subjects with humor and heart, Yellowstone feels superficial. While the stunning cinematography in Yellowstone is commendable, it feels like the creators rely on it too heavily. There's a temptation to think that beautiful visuals can compensate for weak storytelling, but as I mentioned before, candy only goes so far. It's like putting a shiny wrapper on a mediocre gift. No matter how pretty it looks, the contents matter more. The sweeping landscapes of Montana certainly add a layer of allure, but it doesn't change the fact that the emotional landscape of the show often feels barren. It's essential to strike a balance between visual storytelling and narrative depth. Shows like The Leftovers use their visuals to enhance the storytelling, creating a rich tapestry of emotion that resonates long after the episode ends. In Yellowstone, the visuals feel more like a distraction, drawing attention away from the narrative shortcomings. Yellowstone undoubtedly taps into themes of American identity, land ownership, and the complicated relationship with nature, but does it contribute meaningfully to the cultural conversation? I'd argue that it doesn't. Instead of challenging viewers or sparking discussion, it often settles into familiar tropes that don't encourage deeper thinking. In contrast, shows like The Good Place or Black Mirror manage to raise questions about morality, technology, and human nature in ways that are both entertaining and thought-provoking. They challenge us to examine our values and consider alternative perspectives, whereas Yellowstone tends to reinforce existing narratives rather than question them. As I reflect on my experience watching Yellowstone, I can't help but feel a sense of longing for shows that truly push boundaries. Television has the power to transport us, to challenge our assumptions, and to delve into the complexities of the human experience. Shows that embrace this potential leave lasting impressions and spark conversations long after the credits roll. I've found myself gravitating toward shows that offer a rich narrative tapestry where every thread matters. This search for meaning in storytelling is what makes television a compelling medium. I want to be moved, to feel a connection to the characters, and to engage with the themes presented. I want to walk away from an episode feeling like I've gained insight into the human experience, not just entertained by the antics of a family fighting over a ranch. Ultimately, my experience with Yellowstone Season 2 left me underwhelmed. It's not that it doesn't have moments of entertainment, it does, but when stacked against other shows that manage to blend entertainment with meaningful storytelling, Yellowstone simply falls short. The characters lack the depth needed to make their struggles resonate. The writing often feels superficial, and the themes are explored without the nuance they deserve. While Yellowstone may have its fans, I find myself yearning for something more. A show that truly captures the complexities of life and leaves a lasting impact. Here's hoping for a new series that can blend breathtaking visuals with storytelling that genuinely matters. After all, in the end, it's all about the story we tell.